It's finally here. Starfinder 2nd Edition has landed, bringing with it a galaxy of brand new build options for us to explore. In order to determine what makes a great Starfinder 2e build, however, we first need to learn the aspects that make up the characters themselves. So, let's take the first step in building a Starfinder 2e legend together with today's video, a guide on the Barathu Ancestry. Starfinder 2e is a brand new game with a familiar backbone. Designed to be compatible with Pathfinder 2nd Edition, Starfinder 2nd Edition follows the same 3-action economy, adventure design, and character creation process. The first step in that character creation process is choosing your ancestry, the species or origin that defines your body, culture, and starting traits. So, let's explore the Barathu's ancestry together as we review who the Barathu people are, their roleplay potential, the feats that define them, and at first glance, what classes might be the best and worst fits. So who are the Barathu people? Barathus are floating aberrant beings who effortlessly edit their own genetic code and merge together into countless bizarre and beautiful configurations. Early stage Barathus tend to be more individualistic and gravitate towards learning about other cultures, while more experienced Barathus developed a fluid sense of self and seek communion with others on a deeper level. A Barathu is a medium-sized creature with a starting hit point total of 8 and a speed of 5 feet hovering and a fly speed of 20 feet. They have attribute boosts to Constitution, Wisdom, and a free selection, while coming with a flaw to Dexterity. This means that your Constitution, Wisdom, and one attribute of your choice will come in with a +1 to those stats, while your Dexterity will start with a -1. They speak Breathedon and Common, along with any additional languages equal to your intelligence modifier. These might be languages from your homeworld or ones common in your GM's campaign. They come with 2 features, genetic adaptation and limited telepathy. Genetic adaptation allows you to reshape and adjust your body to adapt to new situations. You can retrain an ancestry feat in 1 day of downtime instead of 1 week. You can retrain any ancestry feats, including lineage feats. Limited telepathy allows you to communicate mentally with creatures within 30 feet. The creature does need to share a language with you, however, and it doesn't grant you any access to their thoughts, instead providing information the same way verbal language would. Typical Barathu have a floating, blimp-like body with colorful tentacles and dangling limbs. Each Barathu has some control over their appearance, as their body reflects their personal vision of self. Their appearance will likely drastically change over time, as their genetic code is constantly evolving. When they come together and mold themselves into a larger unified form, called the conglomerate, they tend to appear like giant jellyfish or blooming ooze flowers, or even a collection of rainbow cloud rays. One of the unique things about the Barathu's people is that they maintain a fluid, ever-changing sense of self. When younger, they often take inspiration from others and express more individualistic tendencies, which they begin to tamper down as they age and gain experience by merging with others. As mentioned earlier, when a Barathu merges with others of its kind, it's called a conglomerate. A Barathu conglomerate is greater than the sum of its parts, with an entirely new identity and worldview created by the fusion. Barathu conglomerates who split back into their individual parts recall only hazy memories of their time within the conglomerate, described by some as watching a holovid reel. While young Barathu tend to find the experience disconcerting, most older Barathu spend time with conglomerates. As their bodies and memories begin to fade with age, many Barathu choose to merge permanently with a conglomerate, letting go of their individual self to join a greater consciousness and being. For religious faith, many identify with Horus, the agent of change, and choose to explore his faith. Horus began as a single-celled organism and grew into a deity. Many Barathu see their own constant evolution as a mirror of his own journey. There are those Barathu, however, who have explored Lavaria, the Pact world known as the many-mooned world of dreamers, and have developed their own beliefs after experiencing its cosmic song. As with everything else about them, many Barathu worldview and religious beliefs change throughout their lifetime as they merge with others and literally expand their minds. So, Why pick a Barathu? If you want a character that can have unlimited potential for narrative growth over the course of their life, resulting in a nearly never-ending roleplay potential, who also kind of looks like a cool jellyfish, Barathu offers everything you need for creative freedom from session 1. Like many ancestries, not all Barathu are alike, and this is shown by the way of their heritage. When creating a Barathu character, you will select one of these options as the heritage for your character. Dreamer Barathu. You've communed with the cosmic melody Alivara, and it changed you. You struggle to express the fragments of memory and sensation you recall from the experience, except through singing and similar psychic emanations. You get to choose one cantrip from the occult spell list. By weaving magic into your song, you can cast this spell as an occult innate spell at will. The cantrip is heightened to a spell rank equal to half your level rounded up. Your magic is adaptable, and you can channel your music to enhance it. Once per day, you can meditate on your cosmic song to change the cantrip you've chosen to a different cantrip from the occult spell list. This is a 10-minute activity that has the concentrate trait. If you want your Barathu to have some innate magic that you can kind of change to fit whatever you need every single day, then this might be the heritage for you. Early stage Barathu. You're young and inexperienced compared to other Barathu, with an individualistic worldview likely shaped by your interactions with other cultures. You have yet to see the full breadth of the cosmos, and haven't adapted yourself to overcome its many threats or understand its various life forms. Your form is highly mutable, as you haven't yet chosen to specialize or merge with other Barathu. You are small-sized instead of medium, and you gain Quick Squeeze as a bonus feat. Additionally, you gain resistance to precision damage equal to half your level. If you want to play a Barathu at the beginning of their journey, pure and untouched by the minds of others, this is the blank slate heritage you're looking for. Manufacturer Barathu. Your body is a living laboratory, allowing you to ingest raw materials and refine them into useful medicines and other products. You become trained in crafting, or another skill of your choice if you're already trained in crafting, and gain the Suram crafting feat. If you've ever looked at a gelatinous cube and thought, what if it had opposable thumbs and could craft? This heritage is for you. Merged Barathu. You're a unique entity formed from the constant union of two or more Barathu who enjoy the act of combination so much that they chose not to return to isolation as their former selves. You're a large creature instead of medium, you gain 10 hit points from your ancestry instead of 8, and you have a +1 circumstance bonus to saving throws against emotion effects. If you'd rather play as the old soul who has truly discovered who they are, what their place in the universe is, and decided that they would rather sacrifice their individuality for the collective, then this is the heritage to play out that fantasy. Now that we've covered what kind of Barathu you can play, let's dive into the ancestry feats that bring these blimp-bodied brainiacs to life. All ancestries in Starfinder 2nd Edition have mechanical boosts to your character called ancestry feats. These feats are specific to that particular ancestry, though there are plenty of ancestries that share similar feats that just have different names. You get to select an ancestry feat at 1st, 5th, 9th, 13th, and 17th levels. Each of these ancestry feats has a feat level attached to them, meaning you must be at least that level of a character to select that feat as an option. You can always select an ancestry feat that is lower than your current level though. Example, taking a level 1 ancestry feat at level 5. I like to divide ancestry feats into two categories: feat chains, which build on each other, and standalone feats, which offer benefits all on their own. Feat chains are groups of feats where each one builds on a previous one, either enhancing its effect or requiring it as a prerequisite. Standalone feats are feats that enhance your character, but don't necessarily directly interact with any other feats. Let's first review the feat chain feats for the Barathu. Feat chains are one of my favorite parts of the Starfinder 2nd Edition Ancestry system. To me, there is something so exciting and refreshing when aspects of my character blend together and have a mechanical feel to the narrative improvements my character makes. Some ancestries have feat chains, while others might not. Some might even have more than one. The Barathu have 2 such chains, with the first starting at 5th level ancestry feat, Vent Gas. Vent Gas has a frequency of once per hour. You vent gas to propel yourself forward. All squares in a 5-foot emanation become filled with gas. All creatures in that gas become concealed, and all creatures outside of the gas become concealed to creatures within it. This gas disappears at the beginning of your next turn. You gain a plus 10 foot circumstance bonus to all of your speeds until the start of your next turn, then you stride. This is a solid utility feat. For one action, it gives you temporary concealment in a small area, boosts your speed by 10 feet until your next turn, and includes a stride. All in one. Very useful if you're trying to get somewhere fast. Vent Gas chains into the 13th level ancestry feat, Corrosive Venting. Corrosive Venting does have a prerequisite of taking Vent Gas. You can control caustically as you vent your gases. When you vent gas, increase the area of your emanation to 10 feet. You can choose to make the gas you vent caustic. If you do, non-Barathu creatures that enter the emanation or start their turn in the area take 3d6 acid damage with a basic reflex save against your class DC or spell DC, whichever is higher. On a critical failure, the creature additionally takes 1d4 persistent acid damage, and at 17th level, the acid damage increases to 2d6, and the persistent acid damage increases by 1d6. At 17th level, the acid damage increases by 2d6, and the persistent damage increases by 1d4. This is a great example of what I love so much about feat chains. Vent Gas is useful, but not particularly exciting. But now, with Corrosive Venting, you are able to increase the emanation of your gas and decide if it does damage or not. And then on top of that feat itself, it scales the damage, not only dealing more damage, but also adding persistent acid damage. So now it's not just I need to get somewhere quickly, it can be used for I need to get out of somewhere quickly while leaving behind some extra damage. This chain works because Corrosive Venting directly upgrades Vent Gas, expanding its range and adding damage onto the original effect. Our second feat chain starts with the 9th level feat, Convergent Evolution. With Convergent Evolution, you sampled the genetics of creatures and people you've made contact with and mimic them. When you take this feat, select up to 3 different ancestries with which you have had significant contact. You can select ancestry feats from these ancestries you choose in addition to your Barathu Ancestry feats. Additionally, you gain 1 ancestry feat you qualify for a 5th level or lower from one of the 3 selected ancestries. You can retrain this selected feat once per day during your daily preparations. Talk about unique! This feat not only grants you an additional ancestry feat, but allows you to grab from one of up to 3 different ancestries and then lets you switch that out on a daily prep. The flexibility this provides is insane. This allows you to avoid taking a versatile heritage or adopted ancestry general feat in order to get access to some of these other ancestry feats, and those options only provide you with a singular permanent choice, while this grants 3. The second feat in this chain, however, takes it to an entirely different level with Manifold Evolution at 17th level. You've cataloged the genetic code from countless ancestries you've encountered, and you can draw upon any of them to enhance and evolve your body. Increase the number of ancestries you can select with Convergent Evolution from 3 to 6. You gain 2 additional ancestry feats you qualify for of 13th level or lower, chosen among the ancestries selected with Convergent Evolution. You can retrain 1 or both of these selected feats once per day during your daily preparations. Seriously, Convergent Evolution was strong on its own, but this is beyond expectations. Having the ability to select 2 different 13th level or lower ancestry feats from up to 6 different ancestries is a level of flexibility and customization that might be objectively unmatched. This becomes even more insane if your GM allows for Pathfinder 2nd Edition ancestries to be used in the game, which would give you something like 65 different ancestries in total to pick from. The character building potential here is truly something amazing. So that covers the two different feat chains that exist within the Barathu feat selections. One thing that should be emphasized is at their core, Barathu are all about change and adaptation, and that's reflected in their diverse set of standalone feats. Let's take a look at the rest of the options, starting with our level 1 picks. The first of our first level Barathu Ancestry feats is Barathu Lore. From your upbringing, you've learned the ways of your people while also seeking to expand your own minds in the fields of creation. You gain the trained proficiency in crafting and medicine. If you would automatically become trained in one of these because of your background or class, for example, you instead are trained in a skill of your choice. You also gain the additional Lore General feat for Barathu Lore. Nearly every ancestry has a feat identical to this one. The only thing that changes is which skills you get training in. Don't let the commonality fool you, however, into thinking this is not a great feat, because it is. Firstly, gaining training in crafting and medicine is wonderful, mainly because that's 2 less skills you have to pick from when you're selecting what skills you're going to be trained in. Secondly, the second half, where it grants you the additional Lore General feat, is the true magic of the feat itself. Additional lore says, your knowledge has expanded to encompass a new field. Choose a lore skill subcategory. You become trained in it. At 3rd, 7th, and 15th level, you gain an additional skill increase you can apply only to the chosen lore subcategory. Now, because this feat is granted in part by the Barathu Lore feat, our lore skill subcategory is already selected for us, which is Barathu. Lore skills are always useful and provide a number of benefits, particularly for recall knowledge checks and the earn income downtime activity. This feat grants us trained proficiency in Barathu Lore at 1st level and improves to Expert at 3rd, Master at 7th, and Legendary at 15th. That is essentially 4 free skill increases in something super useful, tailored just to your character, all as the bonus to another feat. This is always a fantastic option for any character build. Adaptable limbs. You grow sturdy lower limbs that allow you to walk on land. Increase your speed to 20 feet. Additionally, you gain the Adaptive Locomotion action. Adaptive Locomotion is a 1 action, frequency once per hour action that has the effect of transforming your limbs into either flippers or hooked pseudopods to better traverse the surrounding environment. If you select flippers, you gain a swim speed of 20 feet. If you select hooked pseudopods, you gain a climb speed of 20 feet. This transformation lasts for 10 minutes. This is an interesting ancestry feat. Having a feat that can adapt into different movement speeds is some nice utility. That being said, the mileage will definitely vary on this one from table to table or campaign to campaign. If you have a GM who doesn't pay too much attention to having maps that include different movement speed types, or if you are in a campaign where it all takes place in open battlefields, this probably isn't going to come up very often. If you're in a campaign, however, where you are a pirate on the open seas, being able to switch from flying to swimming to walking would consistently come up and be super useful. This is going to be a check with your GM before taking this feat type of feat. Dark Vision Adaptation. You've explored the deepest regions of space and found ways to adapt. You gain Dark Vision. Dark Vision is a common ancestry upgrade in both Starfinder and Pathfinder, usually representing a subgroup that's adapted to darkness. Dark Vision is not always an exciting pick, but it's always a practical one. Dermal Spikes. Spiky protrusions jut from your body, which you can use to wound attackers. Your Fortitude DC against athletics checks to grapple or shove increase by 1. Additionally, you gain the Piercing Spikes reaction. The Piercing Spikes reaction has a trigger that once you become grabbed by a creature, you can twist and thrash your body around, dealing 1d4 plus your strength modifier piercing damage to the triggering creature. This damage increases by 1d4 at 5th level and every 4 levels afterwards. When building a character, there's always going to be a balance between wanting feats that provide static passive bonuses and those that are reactive, and this one certainly falls into the latter category. Character build is going to be a big influence on if this is going to be a useful feat for you or not. If you want to be a more aggressive frontline character that is consistently finding themselves in positions where they are being grappled, then this is probably going to be a fantastic choice. People tend to overlook taking intentional selections to give them options for the reaction, and this feat fills that role perfectly. One thing I really like here is that the damage increases gradually over time. Now, granted, the increase is every 4 levels, which is certainly on the slow side of things, but considering how many low-level ancestry feats that do provide damage or don't have damage effects that scale at all, the fact that there is any scaling at all puts this feat in the winning column for me. Grasping tendrils. You've adapted more of your tendrils and limbs with complex musculature and cellular structures, improving articulation and fine motor skills. Increase the number of arms you have by 2. At any time, one pair of your arms is designated as your active hands. You can change this designation from one pair of hands to another by taking the Switch Hands action, which is a single action. You can only wield items with your active hands. Note, you can take this feat multiple times. One of the things that tends to differ between Starfinder and its partner Pathfinder is that Starfinder Ancestries have a tendency to include a lot more limbs, and the Barathu is no exception with grasping tendrils. The thing I find most interesting is the special annotation saying that you can take this feat multiple times. I have no idea how many arms is too many arms, but if you really wanted to find out, you could just take this feat every time you level up, though probably best to save that for a one-shot and not a full adventure. Metabolic manipulation. Through careful experimentation and selective adaptation, you've manipulated your immune system and internal chemistry to better fight off illness and infection. You gain the fast recovery skill feat and the targeted immunization action. Targeted immunization is a free action that has a trigger of you recovering from a disease or a poison. You instinctively synthesize antigens that make you immune to the triggering disease or poison. This immunity lasts for the next day or until you use targeted immunization next. This feat provides 2 really useful aspects. First, it provides the targeted immunization, which, while niche, is certainly going to be impactful when present. Diseases and poisons can really start to hamper a character if they get too far along in their stages. The second useful aspect is that it grants the fast recovery skill feat. With fast recovery, your body quickly bounces back from afflictions. You regain twice as many hit points from resting. Each time you succeed at a fortitude save against an ongoing disease or poison, you can reduce its stage by 2 or by 1 against a virulent disease or poison. Each critical success you achieve against an ongoing disease or poison reduces its stage by 3 or by 2 against a virulent disease or poison. In addition, you reduce the severity of your drained condition by 2 when you rest for a night instead of just 1. If I were going to be in a campaign where diseases and poisons were a persistent threat, this feat would be worth taking on its own. The fact that metabolic manipulation not only gives you this feat, which drastically improves your ability to succeed your way out of these conditions, but then pairs it with an action making you immune to them is a great combo. Overall, this feat is somewhat situational, but oh so good. Last up for the first level ancestry feats is Tentacle Whip. You grow a tentacle that can lash out like a whip. You gain a tentacle unarmed attack that deals 1d6 bludgeoning damage. Your tentacle is in the brawling weapon group and has the Barathu, finesse, reach, and unarmed traits. This is a pretty straightforward ancestry feat. There are a lot of ancestries that are given the option for an improved unarmed attack, and the Barathu is one of them. One thing about Tentacle Whip, though, that is less common is that Tentacle Whip has the reach trait, granting it an extra 5 feet of melee attack range, which is pretty cool. These feats that provide these improved unarmed attacks tend to be more useful at lower levels and end up being candidates for retraining down the road unless you're specifically building into them. That's the end of our first level ancestry feats. Let's take a look at how the Barathu continue to evolve as we explore our 5th level options. Fluid Anatomy has a frequency that is once per hour, and it triggers when an enemy scores a critical hit against you with their strike. Your anatomy adjusts to distribute damage from vital areas. The triggering attack deals only the damage it would have dealt on a hit, typically normal damage instead of double damage. Any other effects of the attack caused by the critical hit still occur, such as critical specialization effects. Until the beginning of your next turn, you're off guard against the triggering enemy. For me, this is a tough feat to really settle in on. On the one hand, being able to negate the damage from a critical strike once per hour is extremely useful, and could literally be the difference between living or dying. On the other hand, being off guard against the enemy until the beginning of your next turn is a rough addition. Off guard means you take a -2 penalty to your AC and to your saving throw, which makes you noticeably easier to hit and damage. And because every +1 matters in Starfinder, that penalty can let an enemy land additional follow-up hits, maybe even another critical, depending on how many actions they have left. Most of the time, negating critical damage once per hour is worth the trade-off, but it's not a flawless defense. Treat it as a high-value conditional save rather than a consistent damage sponge. Molecular modification. You modify your body's genetics to resist certain damage types. You gain resistance to acid, bludgeoning, cold, electricity, fire, piercing, poison, slashing, or sonic damage equal to half your level. Note, you can take this feat multiple times. Each time you do so, you get to select a different damage type. This is objectively just a good feat. Any means to gain resistances is always a good thing, and this feat not only has a healthy selection of options for damage resistances, but allows you to take this feat multiple times. Just make sure to select the right choices for your campaign. Running around hell, for example, with fire resistance is fantastic, while running around hell with sonic resistance is like not having any resistances at all. Since we've already covered one of the 2 9th level ancestry feats in Convert Evolution, let's take a look at the other option, Expansive Verse. Expansive Verse has a prerequisite that you are a Dreamer Barathu heritage. Your songs become more complex and tinged with greater magic. Each day, during your daily preparations, you can choose one common 2nd rank spell from the occult spell list. You can cast this spell as an occult innate spell once per day until your next daily preparations. It's important to note that due to its prerequisite of being a Barathu with the Dreamer heritage specifically, only those characters can make this selection. That note aside, this is a pretty solid feat choice. I'm a fan of feats that grant magic casting to characters, especially ones that don't innately have it alongside their class, but it also serves as a good augment for caster classes as well. This feat gives you access to a 2nd rank occult spell each day, typically utility spells such as Detect Thoughts, Spell Magic, or Invisibility live here, so that's some powerful problem solving added to your toolkit, whether you're a non-caster or a hybrid caster looking for some extra flexibility. As with level 9 before, we have already covered one of the 2 13th level ancestry feats, so let's review the other one, Internal Chemistry. You tweak your anatomy and bodily systems to metabolize pharmaceuticals more efficiently. Regain additional hit points equal to half your level when you restore hit points to yourself using a consumable item with the healing trait. Healing is an important aspect of the adventuring life, and this selection highlights the importance by augmenting your healing potions and the like. This grants you extra healing equal to half your level when you are using a consumable healing item. Now that is a modest but reliable bump, roughly +6 hit points at level 13, and can be valuable in a long adventuring day or attrition fights, even if it's not a headline grabbing number. The final feat available to the Barathu shows up at 17th level and plays into the core aspect of Barathu evolution with Combine. With a frequency of once per day, you temporarily merge your body with that of an adjacent willing creature, overlaying yourself on top of them to better shield them from harm. This transformation lasts for 10 minutes. You can dismiss this effect, and when you do, you emerge in a space adjacent to the target that you were merged with. When combined, you and your target each take your own turns as normal and must be targeted separately for the purposes of abilities and other effects. Additionally, you and your target gain the following benefits. If the target is medium or smaller sized, their size increases to large and their reach increases to 10 feet. You occupy the target's space and cannot take actions with the move trait. If the target moves, you move with them. For each speed you possess, compare it to that of your target. If your speed is faster, or they lack that speed, they gain your speed. Your body shields the target from harm, granting them greater cover, though you don't gain cover. Your body doesn't obscure the target's vision or block their line of sight. This feat nails the Barathu's cooperative nature. You literally become a living shield and mobility engine for an ally. There's a lot to like here. You can boost an ally's size and reach, transfer your movement speeds to them if they lack it, if they're slower, or you can grant them greater cover +4 AC and still take your turns independently. Honestly, the only real drawback here is that you're stuck with someone regarding movement, but outside of that, this provides a very unique approach to team play and should be a blast at the table. The Barathu come with a healthy selection of feats that really fit into the thematics and narrative backing that the Barathu have. The strength of these are most certainly the 2 feat chains available, as they don't have any overlapping level requirements, so you can have both of them on a single character, and with them not starting until level 5, you can have your favorite pick at first level. Don't think this makes every Barathu build the same, however, as being able to select from different ancestries via convergent ensures you have as many varying feat paths as there are ancestries in your game. There's one last aspect to your Barathu that needs to be looked at before pulling out the character sheet, and that's what Starfinder 2e launch classes they might be best at, or those they should probably avoid. You've done all of your studying, put all of your thought into the who, what, and why of your Barathu, and now it's time to answer that big question. What class should you play? Of course, the beauty of Starfinder 2e is that you can play any class with any ancestry. But if you're looking to start with mechanical advantage, there are definitely some standout winners and one clear loser based on how the Barathu's attribute boosts and flaw align with class key attributes. Let's start with the bad news first. If you guessed operative, congratulations, you nailed it. Operatives are quick-witted professionals who thrive in high-stakes combat using impressive dexterity and tactical training. Unfortunately, dexterity is the Barathu's attribute flaw. This means you begin with a penalty in the very stat operatives rely on for accuracy, defense, and many of their core skills. Now, do not get me wrong. You can absolutely build a Barathu operative and it can be fun and flavorful. For example, a Barathu operative might lean into espionage and aerial mobility using flight to set up clever flanking angles rather than relying on raw dexterity for success. But from a raw numbers perspective, you're always going to be a step behind compared to ancestries that naturally boost dexterity. So, what classes do crave a wisdom or constitution boost? Let's start with Mystic, a supernatural wellspring that channels the fundamental forces of the cosmos to form spiritual bonds that provide healing, empowerment, and core connections. Their key attribute is Wisdom, something Barathu excel at naturally, giving you stronger spell DC, better healing output, and improved insight skills right from level 1. Next up is the Soldier, a master of area of effect weapons, heavy armor, and tanking damage. With their hardy constitution, the Soldier's key attribute, Barathu are built for high damage, close quarters, and sustained frontline combat. Their natural resilience pairs perfectly with heavy armor and high capacity weapons. So whether you want to hold the line in heavy armor or channel cosmic energy to heal and empower your allies, Barathu has some powerful class synergies. And if narrative is your focus, any class can shine with the right story behind it. Just remember, sometimes it's fun to lean into your strength, and sometimes it's fun to defy expectations. Either way, your Barathu is ready to take Starfinder 2nd Edition by storm. The Barathu Ancestry is one of the most distinctive options in Starfinder 2nd Edition, offering players a chance to embody a floating, shape-shifting being with deep cultural roots and an adaptable approach to problem solving. Mechanically, their bonuses to Constitution and Wisdom make them natural fit for classes that value durability, spiritual insight, or both, such as the Mystic and Soldier, while their dexterity flaw makes certain agility-focused roles like Operative more of a challenging playstyle. However, the Barathu's value goes far beyond raw stats. Their unique physiology opens up creative tactical options in combat, and their rich lore gives storytellers ample material to explore themes of cooperation, transformation, and cosmic perspective. Whether you're leaning into their natural strength or purposefully playing against the type, they offer a rewarding canvas for roleplay. If you're a mechanically minded player, you'll find plenty of synergy in classes that let you soak up damage, bolster allies, or use your keen awareness to control the battlefield. If you're a narrative first player, you'll have a blast crafting a character whose physical form and cultural heritage are just as flexible as their role in the party. At the end of the day, Barathu embody one of the most important truths of Starfinder. It's a galaxy where your choices matter more than just your starting stats. Build smart if you want to optimize, build bold if you want to surprise, and most of all, build something you'll have fun playing for the whole campaign. If this helped you get a better understanding of who the Barathu are, hit that like button, subscribe for more Starfinder 2nd Edition content, and let me know in the comments what kind of Barathu you're building. And if you're interested in learning about more Starfinder 2e ancestries, click that video right over there to learn all about the android. Until next time, control the dice, alt the meta, build the legend. I've been Nicholas, your virtual GM. Thanks for watching.